Last time on the WizardCast.
Mark!
Whoa, Brian, what's wrong?
They're coming for me, Mark. I just saw myself.
Brian, that's a mirror?
No, not in the mirror. I saw me.
You saw someone who looks like you?
No.
It happens all the time.
Listen to what I'm saying, Mark. I saw me. Not a reflection, not some other handsome person. Me. Twice already. They're going to kill me, Mark. It's the hangman. It's the hangman. It's the hangman. It's the hangman.
You know, I probably should stop adding mushrooms to your food, Brian, but what would you do if someone really did try to take you out? You gotta build up that tolerance.
And now the conclusion of the WizardCast.
I'm Brian Kwong.
And I'm Mark Ross.
We're Salesforce experts that love talking about technology and Salesforce.
We also love humor. Doesn't mean we're actually good at it.
In the Salesforce community, I'm known as the Salesforce Wizard, likely due to me wearing a wizard hat at Salesforce events.
And I'm known as Salesforce Yoda for pretty much the same reason.
You should see the ears.
We have a passion to help educate and entertain people.
So we've joined forces to create WizardCast.
We've got tips and best practices.
We talk with interesting people.
All mixed with quote-unquote jokes and humor.
Welcome
to the
WizardCast. Mark, I'm reading a new book, and it's about anti-gravity.
Like science fiction or something? I mean, how is it?
No. It's an actual physics book. I just simply can't put it down.
Well, that sets the tone.
So welcome to episode 62 of the WizardCast.
Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we were like in the 50s. How did we age like 5 or so episodes overnight?
So I forgot to include all the episodes from Dreamforce since they were unscripted.
They were not true episodes. They were filler episodes.
They were episodes. So Apple Podcasts made this change where they're wanting you to actually put episode numbers in a specific field instead of the title. So I had to update all our history, all our past episodes. So I counted. It's officially episode 62.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's weird. I guess that puts us closer to triple digits.
Very close.
By a little
triple
bit.
digits. If we only kept to a schedule, we'd probably be right there.
Oh, we'd
by
be
now.
there already.
Yes.
Yeah, we'd be yeah.
Yes.
We could retire.
We could.
Yeah.
With all the money that we're making. Speaking of, the following message is completely the fault of Daniel Stange.
Whoa, hang on. Brian, come on. That's rude.
What's rude?
Daniel went to all that trouble to get that education. You can at least call him by his title, okay?
What? He's got a title?
Yeah. Dr. Stange.
Daniel reached out to us on Twitter, and he said he wanted to listen to paid commercials.
Oh, no.
So are you thinking of starting a podcast? I've been using Libsyn to hold my podcast episode ever since we started in 2015. They have some of the best customer service I've ever had the pleasure of working with. They have plans starting at $5 a month. One of the things I love about Libsyn is they're simply flexible. So if I need more storage for 1 month, I can upgrade and then immediately downgrade for the next month. No need to contact him to make this change at all.
How is this a paid commercial exactly?
I'm glad you asked. WizardCast is now an official affiliate of Libsyn. So when you go to signup.libsyn.com, that's LIBSYN, and use promo code PODMAGIC, all lowercase, you can get the first full month free at any tier. And here's a cool tip I learned. If you sign up after the first of the month, you get the remainder of that month plus the next month free because it's a full month free. Just don't change the tier during your free period.
I know you said this isn't a paid advertisement, but I still feel a little bit like I need to take a shower now.
It's technically not a paid commercial.
Do I have to read this? Brian?
Yes. It's in the script.
So this is only a paid advertisement if they sign up for Libsyn with the promo code PODMAGIC.
It's not really a paid commercial because we only get something if people use our code and then stay with Libsyn past the free period.
Okay. Not a real... Can we go back to the fake sponsors now?
Today's episode is brought to you by...
Oh, no. I take it back. No.
Our episode today is brought to you by the fine people at Salesforce User Experience Research.
Wait, that's a real thing. That's not a fake
Yep, it is.
sponsor. Wait, we're getting money from Salesforce?
Well, kind of, not really. If you want to be able to help Salesforce with the future design of the product, you want to sign up for the user experience research or UX research. I've been doing this for a long time, and every now and then they'll give you a gift certificate for taking the time to talk to their team.
Oh, facepalm, but it's an audio format, so I have to say it out loud. Okay, not a sponsor, but at least it's real. Regardless, I have done this as well. It is cool. You get to see what Salesforce is planning. You can provide feedback, and believe me, I have.
Yeah.
There's been some things that be like, what the hell are you thinking?
Yeah, so like most recently I got to see an early concept of what the new flow builder is going to look like. And I got to tell them what I loved, what I hated, and I absolutely love the fact that we can give this kind of feedback.
And this is not just MVP stuff either.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with MVPs.
This is open to anybody.
This is open to everyone. So sign up by going to bit.ly/SalesforceUX, all lowercase.
Okay, so we had the affiliate thing, which left me feeling dirty, and now we have the fake, not really fake sponsor. Is this a new trend? Fake sponsors are going to be things that we might get paid for, but probably not.
Now it's time to thank the people who make this episode possible.
No, we're done. We're fine. That's enough. Let's move on.
I know it's still January, but spring is right around the corner.
Right. And of course, for Salesforce customers, spring arrives early in February, even though it's still very cold outside, at least in our hemisphere, with the new release of Spring 18.
Well, I don't know about you, but here in Wisconsin, at the weekend that we're recording this, it's going to be 50 degrees, so it feels like spring.
That's true. Yeah, no, it's warm here too.
It's been a weird January.
Yeah.
But, you know, Mark, we understand. Time's precious, right?
Mm-hmm. You listeners' time, despite the fact that you listen to us, we can't blame that. We can't fix that.
No. But they also listen to us at 1.5 speed, so it takes them less time. But going through the release notes can be a chore. So the WizardCast, we're going to help you out. Mark is now going to read all 455 pages of the Spring 18 release notes. It's going to be like an audiobook.
Right,
WizardCast
here we go.
Form.
All right, and done.
What do you mean done?
I read it.
You're supposed to read it out loud into the microphone so our
What?
listeners can hear them. And they don't have to read them themselves. It's an audiobook.
That would be silly.
Fine. Should we just talk about maybe some of the things we're looking forward to then?
Sure. We could do highlights, because I did read... Okay, I didn't actually read the whole thing. I skipped the part about Finance Cloud. But it's still
I skipped
a lot
Cloud.
of stuff. Well, that's ironic for you. But no, there's a bunch
an
of
inbox
stuff.
and
An inbox. Yeah.
Platform
And the Salesforce Essentials.
everything after page 10.
Well, that's your problem.
Yes.
Okay. So it's a bunch of stuff, and we're gonna try to hit some of the high-level items. Obviously, we can't hit everything.
Well, how about
But we
this,
got a
Mark?
lot of stuff.
Do you know that we actually have listeners in Europe?
That's true.
And do you know what those listeners would be actually interested in learning about?
How they can not freak out quite so much about GDPR and all the EU privacy laws that are coming down.
I'm sorry, what's GDPR?
Actually, I don't remember what it stands for, but it's the new EU privacy law.
It stands for Guidance for Data Protection and Privacy Regulations.
That's the one.
It's like the very first thing in Salesforce overall when you look at the release notes.
Here's the thing. Like, all of you people in the US who are now going, oh, I can tune out because this is a Europe thing.
Nope.
Nay. No, you got to pay attention to this too. Because here's the deal. These are laws that are being enacted in the EU for data privacy for individuals. And what they are going to do is, if any company has EU resident data, which means if you sell to people who are in the EU, or you sell to companies who may be in the US but have people who work in the EU,
or market to them,
any of that, you have to be able to follow these laws. And there are huge fines for not following this. So even American companies have to sit up and pay attention, because it's all going to go pear-shaped, to use the British quote. But essentially what it is you have to have the ability to keep track of individuals' data. You have to have the ability to remove that individual's data should they ask for you to remove it from your system.
But Mark, what's an individual? Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I get people as leads and contacts 3 or 4 times in my org.
Well, that's the thing. So the new functionality they're releasing, one of the new things they're going to be doing is what they call the individual object. It's a brand new core object that is literally designed to be a multi-lookup to leads and contacts. And so the way it works is it will actually say, all right, well, I've got this person in here twice as a lead and 3 times as a contact. They will all be associated with the same individual. And so that individual then will be able to that'll be a point by which you can track all that information of who belongs to what. And also you can, like any other class 1 object, you can add custom fields. So you can add things like if that individual has specified a preference for how their data should be treated, then that can be entered there as well. But Salesforce is treating this at this point at a very high level. And frankly, I don't want to get too much into this. We could potentially do an entire episode just on GDPR. Maybe we should. That'd be
if you want to hear it, let us know. Tweet us.
Yeah.
New WizardCast Twitter handle, WizardCast_pod.
Right. The thing is, like, my understanding is that these laws aren't in effect yet. They're going to affect, I think it's May. Mm-hmm. And once they do, nobody knows how they're going to be enforced. Nobody knows how they're actually going to play out in the courts. Nothing has happened yet. So people are like, we don't even know what some of these terms mean that are put in the law. Some of the things are fairly vague. So Salesforce is basically hedging at this point. It's like, we're going to give you some tools, but we don't even know what's going to happen with this. So we're just going to let it go high level at this point, and then we'll fill in the blanks.
So read about it, be aware of it, get ready.
There is a Trailhead module if you're interested on GDPR. There is a Trailhead module that's supposed to be fairly decent. And apparently, if you have Premier support, there's a really good accelerator for it as well. So those are possibilities you can check out.
So, one thing I was really surprised about in the release notes is how little there is about Lightning experience. There's nothing about upgrades to the UI.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic. I'm
being wholly sarcastic.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it's of course, like most releases now, it's very Lightning-centric.
Lightning.
But it's a good thing. We need Lightning to be better so we can actually take pride in it as admins.
It drives me nuts, with list views in Lightning right now, how much my text just gets cut off.
They fixed that last release, Brian.
Did they really?
Yeah, the ability to set a column for wrap text.
And that was last release?
It was last release. See, you tried to lob a softball, the softball went behind you and over the catcher.
Oh, I know why. My problem was the fact that it was shown at my last user group, and so I'm getting confused of what is coming and what's here.
No, there are some other cool stuff. So you can now take a list view and make it a tab. And this is actually a user-by-user basis. It's not something that I do and all of my users automatically get it. So you could have a specific list view. They can just make it a tab temporarily, or it can make that temporary tab permanent.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That sounds like a support nightmare.
Little bit. They can also move things around as well, so they can change the order of the tabs, but they cannot remove any tabs that you've put there. So
what about renaming tabs?
I heard that somewhere, but I didn't see it in the release notes.
I heard it actually. It was a Salesforce Live thing. That there was a Twitter of it. So you can rename tabs, but not of custom or not standard objects. You couldn't name accounts to whatever you want. But so maybe they're referring to these temporary tabs for list views. I'm not 100% sure.
That would make sense.
Either way, it still sounds like a support nightmare. I can hear the phone calls of, "Hey, Brian, my random tab that I just gave a name after my cat isn't showing what I want to show." And I go, "What are you talking about, Willis?" Because I can't see it.
It is those temporary tabs. You can rename those. So, or then permanent tabs.
But a permanent to the user.
Yes.
Yeah.
To the user.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of this one. I like the concept.
We'll
I'm not a fan of that one.
Yeah, it's a great concept, and we'll have to see how it plays out. Rubber meets the road.
Should I try lobbying you another softball that it goes completely askew?
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. What do you think about the coloring in Lightning?
I think it's fine, Brian.
Yeah, you think so? You wouldn't want it to like mirror your company color?
I think it's fine.
You're a jerk.
Okay, so go. You can talk about this one. Go ahead. You can do it.
It's
You could do
themes and branding, Mark.
There you go.
Yes.
Wow, we're in a goofy mood tonight.
I know. It's all about showing your true colors.
No, that's not pod safe.
That's true. But in Lightning Experience, and again, this is not another one of those where I think, for me, I remember when they came out with this in the Classic, and I went, meh. But I can see some companies being really gung ho about, oh no, we need to have it our special tool.
Yeah,
but
it's when frankly things, color schemes and branding, they look better in Lightning than they did in Classic.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's better done, it's better implemented, it fits more with this new way of laying out structures and things. So I wouldn't worry too much about it, Sinead.
Okay, you want to talk surveys?
Would you like to take a survey? Let's see how many pop culture references we can fit into this episode.
I was actually really excited when I heard about it, and then when I actually read it, I got disappointed because it's really only included with Health Cloud.
Yep.
And it's extra if you don't have Health Cloud.
You have to pay extra for it. Yeah.
And it's like there's so many survey apps out there.
Yeah, but you pay for those.
Not all of them. There's some really good freebies.
Good ones. You said really good. I can test this.
Really good freebies, as in they're free. They're good for freebie stuff.
But they're not good.
No, objectively
speaking.
It depends on what you need. Like if you need a whole lot of flexibility and really heavy duty custom stuff, yeah. But if you need something really straightforward and simple,
I wouldn't even call it heavy duty custom stuff. Any amount of custom, like getting data into Salesforce in any sort of fashion that's not like their standard cookie cutter, is generally broken. But this has been.
Yeah, there was actually a really good app out there on the App Exchange. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I used it when I was first getting started as an admin. It was a really good survey app built into the Salesforce. It wasn't meant to go like attach into accounts and contacts and things like that, but we used it for Net Promoter Score and sending surveys when we closed cases. It was like if you could do the form in something like Google Docs, you could definitely do it in that particular app. And I used a public site. It worked well.
Well, regardless, you're wrong. And the survey, sorry, the survey tool that's coming out with Lightning it looks kind of slick, but it is an extra cost. It does let you put surveys into Lightning pages and communities. So you can do.
I can see the community things being really nice.
Yeah, exactly. Having that immediately tie in, that's pretty good.
Assuming it provides you better functionality than just doing a survey in a flow.
Yep.
Yeah.
So another thing that's in there is, of course, critical updates. Every release we have, there's a lot of them this time.
Oh, and there's some ones that sound scary.
Oh yeah. Well, the flow one, let's save that for the end.
That's a big one.
Right.
I like the new URL format one.
The new URL format is interesting in how short of a time they're giving people.
Oh yeah, but here's the thing: I don't think it's going to be as bad as what people think, right? So the big issue with the new URL format is if you had created a quote unquote URL hacks, those are all going to stop breaking, or they're just not going to work.
Or a reference to a document or graphic file or something.
A bookmark.
And maybe you have a client that put it in when they tried to do it themselves instead of going through you, and they actually put in the entire URL instead of just
slash placement.
Yeah.
I mean, those are going to break, but the good thing is those are really simple to fix.
They are.
And the other thing is, I don't think too many people are using URL hack type things in Lightning anyways. But I'd be really interested to see what happens. I actually personally think the biggest impact for most end users isn't going to be things like, oh, my report URL hack is not working anymore, or the image doesn't show. It's going to be, hey, I bookmarked this account page and now it doesn't go there.
No. Well, and here's the other thing is that you're using the term URL hack, but the fact of the matter is URL hacks are not what they used to be. There's a lot of things that we considered URL hacks. The term URL hack used to mean some sort of method of defining in the URL that is not officially supported by Salesforce.
Right.
Well, a lot of those use cases, they haven't changed, and they are now supported by Salesforce.
Yeah.
Like
the
reports,
doing
filters.
PV0 to do a dynamic
that's
filter to a
officially
report,
supported now. So
which
that
is good.
That's not a hack anymore. That is legit, and that will still break.
Yes. It
So
absolutely will.
Be aware of that, listener, that anytime you're calling a URL in Salesforce, it could be affected by this new thing. So do yourself a favor, download Eclipse or new Salesforce DX or
Maven's Mate.
Maven's Mate. It's not supported anymore.
It still works.
Still works. Yeah, that's true. Still works. Welcome Suite, whatever is your choice. Start doing a search of all your metadata. Pull down that metadata, do a search for URLs, and see if you can get these things corrected.
Do what I did. Go into the sandbox, turn on the critical update, and start scrolling around to see what broke.
My enterprise sensibilities are offended, Brian.
I also have a very small org, so manageable.
Fair enough.
All right.
So other stuff. So I'm just going to gloss over the rest of these critical updates. There's a new thing I'm mentioning because they're critical. It's the only reason I'm going into them right now. Let's see, changes to the Aura-enabled Apex controllers. The way sharing is handled, it will now default to without sharing if you don't specify.
Which is weird to me, but okay.
Yeah, it's safer. It's more secure.
No, you mean it should default to with
sharing.
sharing.
No, wait. Yeah, that's right. No, with sharing would be more secure.
That's right.
Ugh.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that is weird.
Once again, Mark, you are wrong.
Okay. Scores 1-1.
Mm-hmm.
They're removing instance names from URLs.
Like NA14 dot.
Exactly. That's usually for things like Visual Force, Community Builder, content files, things like that. And it only applies if you already have my domain.
Right.
So all those will break. There's a new console UI theme for Lightning. You got to enable that.
I find interesting why that's a critical update.
Because it's a complete change. On some level, I'm not sure how. I think programmatically there are things that interact with it, because I've seen in going through it, they made sure to specify there were ways of checking which theme you were using in code. There were actually code calls and API calls.
User.ui theme displayed.
Yeah. So it must be something the way code interacts with it is the only thing I can figure. Not a developer. # not a developer. And there is a critical update that's going to start being enforced. API access for Lightning container apps will be revoked. No more REST APIs for you. So if you know what that means, then you should probably go do something about it. If you don't, then you're probably fine.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing REST API calls from inside an iframe anyways. All right, how about the big one?
Lightning! So there's a lot with Lightning. We have the Accordion component.
Well, wait. You don't want to talk about that last critical
the Flow
update?
one. I thought we'd talk about that when we talked about Flow.
Okay.
Flow's at the bottom.
Okay. I'm just saying it's out of order. Critical updates. It's a critical update.
There's a critical update for Flow, and we'll come back to it. There. You happy?
No, but I'm never happy. What's an accordion
Life
component?
Life is hard. The accordion component is you know how in Classic...
Is that when Weird Al pops out and starts singing?
I wish. You remember in Classic we used to have this ability. We have it we have it in Lightning too. It's when you have a group of fields in a page layout.
Mm-hmm.
You have it in a section.
Right.
You can click on the little arrow and it
goes
hides the entire section.
Collapses.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what they've done is they've added an accordion component, and that lets you put other components inside these that are also collapsible. So multiple collapsible sections that can contain other Lightning components.
So kind of like having your own collapsible sidebar from Classic.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's. I'm sure people will find some use for it. I haven't yet in my testings, but it's something that I'm sure will get you some good mileage. Component visibility gets a nice upgrade. This is pretty slick. So component visibility came out last release, and that's the ability to say, all right, hide this component if this filter criteria is true.
Or show.
Right? or well, it by default hides if the by whatever use, but and if it doesn't meet the filter criteria, it shows it. Yes. They've added now the ability to check running user information, so you can actually say hide this component if the running user has this profile, which is pretty nice. It actually will help keep the number of Lightning pages down.
Yes.
Because people won't have to do that one-off Lightning page for that one profile that doesn't need to see all this other stuff. No, you can have the same one and just limit the access to that component.
We should work with custom permissions. Should put that out there.
And account team members.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they don't have that.
No.
But it also has the ability to do diving down into multiple related records.
Which is cool.
Yeah, that's cool. So you can say, all right, go get... check and see if the owner's manager's email has this domain name in it, and that's how you can hide it, like, or whatever. Go and check this opportunities accounts,
grandfather's account.
Yeah, parent account.
Owner.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty nice. We have a dashboard Lightning component now. You can actually embed a dashboard inside
everywhere.
Lightning page.
Dashboards everywhere.
Dashboards everywhere.
You know what would be nice if you could collapse that dashboard down, because that takes up a lot of space.
You could if you put it inside an accordion component. Synergy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are the big ones in Lightning. There's other stuff, of course.
How about should we talk about the big B?
What, the one I have here in all caps? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. We could do an entire episode on this one alone.
We could do an entire episode about complaining about how Salesforce brands things.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. Because Force.com is no longer Force.com. It is now the Lightning platform. Yes. Long live the Lightning platform.
I mean, it does feel like everything's getting branded as either Einstein Lightning or Trailhead lately.
And I have a feeling that you and I are actually on opposite ends of the argument on this. Imagine that.
Do you know what, Mark? I'm waiting for the announcement when Mark Benioff comes up and says Salesforce.com is changing their name to SalesLightning.com.
That will never happen. He loves that name too much. If they haven't changed it from Salesforce by now, despite the fact that it is more than just sales, they're never changing it. This is just something to be aware of. They even put it in the release notes. It is not the Force.com platform anymore. It is now the Lightning platform. And Brian doesn't like it. And my general opinion is deal with it. That's what companies do.
No. If
companies done a brand.
If it was this one-off, I would say if it was this one-off thing, yeah, I would agree with you. Just deal with it. But the fact of the matter is, everything's being rebranded, even though it doesn't change, right? It's Lightning Flow. It's Lightning Process Builder. It's Lightning this, Lightning that. And it causes confusion. Because, and I mean that really seriously. It's like I'll go to user group meetings and people say, I'm not on Lightning. Can I use something, Lightning something? And it's like, yeah, that has absolutely nothing to do with the Lightning user experience. People get this confused because of the fact they're using the same brand all over the place when they don't really have any tie-in other than the fact that theoretically it's supposed to be faster.
Well, let's put on our tinfoil hat here for one moment.
I prefer aluminum.
Okay, I'm moving on. The thing is, Salesforce is very, very interested in getting those Lightning numbers up.
Of course they are. That's why if you log in on a Classic now, they pop up and say, you haven't tried Lightning yet.
That's a whole nother... That got handled, more or less. So at least they did some revision of that. But no. The thing is, they're very interested in getting those Lightning numbers up. And if by branding some things as Lightning, even though you don't have to have Lightning to use it, it leads people to believe that maybe they should get up on Lightning. Well, they're accomplishing something.
That is very tinfoil hat.
I mean,
speaking of Lightning,
when a company has a goal and they put their all towards it, just like Salesforce has been doing for the past few years, it's hard to discount stuff like that.
Well, let's talk about Trailhead Reports.
Okay.
I'm sorry, wrong brand. Lightning Reports.
Yeah, Einstein? No.
Yeah, no.
Lightstein.
If you're using Lightning Experience and you haven't turned on the new Lightning Report Builder, you should do it because it is
just
a lot.
To try it.
Yeah, and for
At
the
least
most
give it a
part,
shot.
it's dramatically different than what you've used before. And with the exception of the stuff that you can't do with it yet, for a lot of the basic reports, it is amazingly simpler and easier to use.
Right. And if you did try it and you went, bleh, now would be a good time to go try it again because they have improved it in a lot of ways that I would consider to be critical in order to continue to be successful.
What do you consider critical?
Critical for starters, cross filters, for the love of God.
Mm-hmm.
Summary
cross object
formulas.
Filters.
Yeah. Sorry, cross object filters. Summary formulas, buckets, and to me, most importantly, I can actually read the damn thing now. Because before it was like, we're going to have gray text on different shades of gray. No, I can't understand. I can't like look at this and understand anything other than just a sea of mediocrity. And it's, I need to be able to actually look at the data and pick things out. Like that was one of the interesting things that worked so well about Salesforce reports in Classic. And I guess
it was easy to
non-Lightning.
read.
It was easy to read because they had things highlighted, they had things spaced out in ways that made it so that it was actually like easy to see. They took white space into consideration for visibility, and they threw all of that out with Lightning Report Builder. And I took one look at it and said, users are going to hate this.
But it's
so I did not turn on. And yes, it is much better now.
You know, there are some things you still can't do though, even with the new updates. So
this is true.
Now, this doesn't mean that you can't use the Lightning Report Builder or see these reports. It simply means that if you're going to build or edit these types of reports, you're not going to want to do it in Lightning Report Builder. So, like, my personal bane is, hey, I want to run a report with a date filter where date is null. Can't do that.
Do it. Nope.
I want to have a report where I'm summarizing by my date, and I want to have them grouped by calendar, quarter, or year. Can't do it.
Can't do it. No.
All right. Same thing for things like row limit
Joined
filters,
reports.
joined reports, dashboard settings. A lot of those things are just not there. But if you don't need them, that's great. You go ahead and build that report that you need to build in the Lightning Report Builder, and if you do need them, just switch over to Classic.
I can't
turn it
remember
off.
I can't remember the last time I actually deployed a joined report that ended up being used for more than twice.
That's because they're ugly.
It's and not
you can't
as
really do
functional
anything
as
with them.
people think they are. Yeah, exactly. One other cool little thing for reports, it's not directly tied to the Lightning Report Builder, but still a very cool thing that people are going to like, is the fact that you can now search for report and dashboard folders. Hip hip hooray. We got that back now, so wonderful. Dashboards also have a new little thing where you can actually schedule refreshes.
No.
Yes. And emails as well. So you can email out an entire dashboard on a regular basis. Also, if you're loading up a dashboard in Spring 18 for the first time, you're going to be thinking that you've gone colorblind because everything will be in shades of blue. And it's not you. It's Salesforce. They've changed the default color scheme for all dashboards to be variations on a theme of blue. And you can change it. It's in the dashboard settings. You can change your color scheme, your palettes, to have other possibilities. So don't be alarmed.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is fine. So Einstein has one thing. Like, I know this is not normally. We have a lot of content to cover. We're trying to fit a lot within a small space of time. But I wanted to point this out. This is a new Einstein feature. I know very few of us are actually using Einstein yet.
Because it costs a lot of money.
And
you need to have a lot of data to make it work for a lot of things.
Exactly. It's a high enterprise thing. But this I wanted to point this out because I think this is where the future of where Salesforce is going. I think this particular item will eventually be one of those that is no longer a pay to get thing. It's called Einstein Activity Capture. And what it is essentially when you send an email from Salesforce, it will automatically associate that email to every other related Salesforce record that it thinks it could possibly be related
Specifically for the org-wide email addresses.
That's true. It has to come from an org-wide email address. That's right. So things like workflow that are being kicked off, What else? Case automation stuff uses org wide.
Approval processes.
But you can actually write an email from Salesforce in Lightning and specify that you want to send it from the org wide email. Like that is still a thing. So it's not just automation. This is, as long as you're sending it from the org wide, it can actually recognize this and go, well, you've mentioned this person in here as well, and you've referenced this product which is on this opportunity, so I'm going to go ahead and add this to both of those things as well. And this is me theorizing how it actually works based on their description.
And that sounds scary to me.
That sounds damn cool to me.
Well, no, I mean, it can be potentially cool, but that also means that you could potentially have a lot of false positives and have things attached to records you don't want attached.
That's possible. Over time, it's going to get better, especially by the time it gets to a point where we may actually be using it.
Right. Well, again, it's data driven, right? So you have to have enough data to go through the system for it to go through. But can you imagine if you end up sending out an email that is talking about a particular product or complaining about someone, and that gets automatically attached to a contact that you don't want to get attached to?
Maybe don't complain about somebody in your emails. It's that'll generally come back to bite you in some fashion. Brian, do we need to talk about something, Brian?
That's between me and the HR manager.
Okay.
So how about finally having that opportunity default to not create an opportunity when you convert a lead?
That's pretty cool.
I mean, that's something that people wanted in Classic and didn't get for years.
They didn't get it because they knew that they were going to be redoing the UI at some point.
Yeah, it was also a JavaScript page.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so you can now specify as a Salesforce level default to default on lead conversion to don't create an opportunity, or you can actually tell it just hide opportunities from lead conversion entirely. I mean, there are organizations that don't use opportunities. They use custom objects because their vertical doesn't match that kind of sales strategy.
They use opportunities, but not for things like sales. Like they could be using it for donations, and they're not using leads to reflect people who are donating. Yeah. So
it's really nice that we can actually now have that little bit clipped off, because it was always tertiary to begin with. So let's see. A little bit of campaign stuff. A little bit of love there.
Making things easier to add.
Yep.
I'm not all that thrilled with this idea with the Pardot campaigns being Salesforce campaigns, because I think
they're not Salesforce campaigns. They're connecting the two. Your Pardot campaign still exists separate from your Salesforce campaign, but they're connected.
But the problem is a Pardot campaign is something different than a Salesforce campaign, is my point. Pardot campaign is more like is almost like a lead source. When was the first touch? How was the first touch that they did it?
Right.
Where a Salesforce campaign could be not just the first touch, it could be any type of interaction that they're doing.
Well, let's put it this way. I actually have a client that is going to love the crap out of this, because that is exactly what they're trying to do. They are trying to get an idea of all the various things that are actually influencing a sale, and they're using campaigns to do it. They're using the opportunity campaign tracking or opportunity campaign influence to do that. And Pardot is one of their direct influencers. So they need this. So I know I've at least got one customer who's going to be very happy to have this.
Yeah. Well, and some things to note, it is a beta feature.
It is beta.
So unless you really, really need it, you may want to wait until it's generally available. And I believe you can't turn it off once you turn it on.
That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, that sounds like an intractable thing.
Yeah, because I think it makes some really big changes for your Pardot environment of how it's going to be handling campaigns going forward.
Right. Opportunities.
Let's split.
Do the splits, because they're back.
Oh, come on. Splits, who cares about splits? I care about the product names. You know how annoying that has been?
Your efforts to dramatize these items are...
No, I'm serious. I'm absolutely serious. Especially when you have all this white space and you see like 10 characters.
So you can actually now, on the opportunity product selector, you can change the width of the columns. You can see the entire name of the product on a hover. You can turn on wrap text as well. So yes, the opportunity product selector sucks a little bit less now in a very important way.
Mm-hmm.
It's still got some things to improve on, but it's getting there. add keyboard support. Moving on. Emails. I'm going to go through this quick. Quick actions. If you're doing quick action emails, you can now have predefined values for to and CC and BCC. That's actually pretty nice.
Yep.
Spell check is now built in.
Oh,
Thank
gosh.
you.
Yes.
And you can now search emails from Global Search as well. You can search for emails.
Which is very nice.
Very nice. Events. So if you assign an attendee to an event, like a contact that's in your system, and then you make them an attendee on an event, those events will appear in their activity timeline. When you're looking at that contact and you're looking at their activities, it'll actually show up there automatically. That's nice. Some Service Cloud stuff. Can now directly insert knowledge articles into case emails, like the body of the knowledge article. Not like I have to add an entire PDF. That's kind of cool. Knowledge drafting is back in Lightning. Didn't have that. Live agent users can now search knowledge without having to have a case open to do it. They can just look at it. Macros are everywhere. Skill-based routing is now a real boy.
What do you think about macros? Because there was an interesting conversation where someone was basically saying why macros are just not useful.
You know what? I need to dive more into it personally. I know from somebody who used to work doing service desk work. I actually led a service desk prior to doing any Salesforce work, and the what Salesforce advertises the macros as being was something that we valued highly. We had wiki pages dedicated to our own macros that we basically just copy pasted in and used those on a regular basis. They were standard templates of thank you for contacting our, it was basically like, our standard operating responses for things. They were incredibly valuable to us. So I did see somebody, I think it was in MVP channels, that was saying they weren't that great, and I need to take a look at it. Have you used it at all?
I haven't had a good use case for them.
If I were still at my old company, I would have an excellent use case for them. Other kind of general item here, mass quick actions are a thing.
Check, click the button.
I love this. Yeah, mass quick actions on up to 200 items, but it's only on certain things. Cases, leads, and custom objects. Not sure why those, but all right. I'm sure it'll get applied to the others at some point.
What kind of quick actions are you going to do mass? Because you're obviously not going to be doing. You're not doing record creates.
No,
right.
But there is a record update. Yep. So that would be the most obvious I can think of, doing a record update action. Communities, for all you community people who are out there listening to us, both of you, we have Journey Builder for communities. I find this really interesting because this is essentially way number 2 in which Marketing Cloud is directly talking to the rest of Salesforce.
I find the concept interesting. I really want to see it in use.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like, conceptually, it's like, oh, this is another way Marketing Cloud is connecting. That's great. And, you read what they say about it. This sounds potentially interesting. But I'd want to see it before I could pass judgment. So I totally went with you there. If you have communities now, you can set up community calendars for your community users. You have the ability now to actually... This is interesting. I find this really interesting, this one. So you can actually say, I'm going to show different page layouts to community members based on field values on their user record. So, for example, if you have a user that is where the state is in Kansas, and you have another one where the state is Wisconsin, you could actually have it so that they see 2 different page layouts.
Which is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. And I have to wonder if that's a precursor to us getting functionality like that not in communities at some point in the future. Because a community user is only one hop from a full user, architecturally speaking. This may be. I mean,
don't we kind of have some of that with Lightning Component visibility?
Yeah, kinda. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Can we actually talk about...
Okay. You all have been waiting. You've been patient. You came here for the flow. We gonna give you the flow.
There is absolutely nothing in Flow.
All right, so that's it. No, fine. All right. What have we got, Brian?
Uploading files.
I
Easily.
love it.
Easily uploading files.
I love it. Oh my God. I love it so much. I want more. It's not enough.
Times like this, I wish this was also a video podcast, because you should have seen little Mark was waving his hands and going, "Oh my God, this is so fun and Waylon is cute."
Here's the thing you got to understand about uploading files in Flow. The way it works is actually by using a lightning component. It's the file upload lightning component. And what that means, theoretically, and I know for a fact that their plan is, from conversations we've had, that their plan is to continue to release additional what they call base lightning components. And those are not like a lightning component that you add to a lightning page. Not that kind of lightning component. Those are the ones that are like text area lightning component, file upload lightning component.
I need date time.
Calendar component, date time lightning component, things like that. It's the ability, theoretically, their plan is to get those base components all enterable in Flow, usable in
Which
Flow.
Which could be fantastic.
And so this is the first of many. Is the shot heard around the world, the Flow world anyway. But I want more. I want more of these base.
This may actually shock people, considering Mark has said that the upload files is a lightning component, but you can put lightning components in your Flow screens.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I really like this, because I'm going to give you an example. So I had a customer that wanted in the Flow to be able to create an event. And you think, sure, not a big deal, but there is no date time concept in Flow. There's no way to enter a date time. So you have to do things like give them a drop down or a number field to enter a number, and then use a date value function to convert it. But the problem is, do you know what the problem is, Mark?
Time zones.
When you do date value as a function, it does it based on GMT. So if I say 5 p.m., it sets the date time as 5 p.m. GMT. So if you're in Central Pacific time, you're putting in 5 p.m. Pacific, not 5 p.m. GMT. And the only way that you can do that then is you have to know what is the user locale, what is the number of hours difference from GMT, and then mathematically do that. And that's next to near impossibly to do in Flow easily. I mean, it's to the point where it's not worth it. But with a lightning component, I can have a lightning component that simply creates the event through the component. No fuss, no muss.
Now, here's the downside. Like I said, I want more, because this is the only one they've released right now, is the uploading files. Theoretically, however, they also have included the capability to add custom base lightning components, which means lightning components that have been coded by you, or you copy pasted the code from the internet, but it's code. Mm-hmm. So that's the downside. Now, theoretically, I think there are some people out there who are working on taking some of the existing base lightning components and remaking them as custom ones that people can then upload, but I haven't seen a whole lot yet. I've seen one for a lookup, like a true lookup, and I'm sorry. I've seen one for a base lightning component that is a true lookup, but it's not Flow implementable. So my plan is to actually go and test this out, add the Flow implementable bit to it, and then just see if it
works. Mark
will
report back here.
Assuming I find the time to do this. But Flow lookups are, dear God, they're so needed.
Oh, yes.
So needed. All right. So those are the big exciting things. There's a lot of other cool stuff. Mm-hmm. You can turn off headers and footers now.
Which I kind of like.
Yeah. Well, the header has always been kind of like,
but that means
ideal.
Yeah, but that means you don't have to worry about what you're naming things, because it won't be in the header.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So, I can name things, my God, this job really sucks, and no one will know.
They've added a thing called stages. This is
what's
interesting.
A flow stage?
It's so, generally speaking, it's the ability to actually define on a system level a point in time inside the flow. So you could actually say, all right, when it reaches this section of the flow, we're now in stage 2. When it reaches this section of the flow, we're now in stage 3. And this sounds a little bit completely useless until you realize that those stage delineations are actually accessible by the flow itself. So you can actually have flows and subflows that are able to reference what stage it was in when it fired, what it's doing now. So you could have a subflow that does different things based on whether it got fired in stage 2 or stage 4. So it's actually got some pretty cool implications, but it's gonna take a pretty creative mind to try and spin it into this silk into gold.
You know, my favorite thing that I've been doing for a long time now, even though it was beta, was launching flow through actions. That's been my favorite thing to do in Lightning with flow.
And we have it now. Yes, we have it. It's going GA.
It's been beta since winter, but GA is a good thing.
Yeah. And if you're not certain why that would be useful, mobile primarily is what it's really useful for me anyway, for my clients, is the ability to actually run the flow for mobile now. Didn't have that. Was not an option. Now we can run flow from mobile. Is basically that's what they should call it. All right, let's talk a bit about that critical update.
The one that we both completely freaked out about originally.
We completely freaked out when we saw this, and it turns out, happy to report, not a reason to freak out. Mostly,
pretty much. So So the critical update, it's called execute all auto launch flow interviews when invoked in bulk. So an auto launch flow is something like a flow called from Process Builder, or technically Apex. And then in bulk would mean, I think most commonly is, hey, I'm doing an import, or I'm inserting, or I'm updating a whole bunch of records all at once.
And so when they released the release notes for this particular item said, warning, you may start hitting governor limits on flows that you weren't hitting before. And Brian and I took a look at this, and when we started reading, we were like, oh, holy crap. Because it made it sound like it was going to be debulkifying flow. This is not the case. It is not actually debulkifying flow. The terminology that they use in the release notes is accurate if you understand the flow terminology extremely well, as in better than Brian and I understand the flow terminology. It's very technical. But once we got it explained to us,
we calmed down.
This all makes sense now.
So here's the thing. It's for a lot of people, you're not going to notice a difference, quite honestly. Yeah. Right? Because
90% of flow people out there.
Yeah. So it has to involve when records are being updated in bulk, which means everything's in a single transaction. So data loader.
So
the sample that they use is, hey, you are uploading 20 brand new cases, and they're all attached to the same account. And right now, you have a process that when an account gets created, you call this flow, and that flow makes an update to a field on the account page. With the critical update turned off,
that would run 20 times, right? Because you'd be hitting that same case 20 times, pushing to the same account 20 times. Not right now. Well, I'm just saying in general.
Well, you would think, go ahead. Right now, without that critical update, what happens is the flow runs the first time on that first case, updating that account once, and the other 19 cases essentially get ignored. It doesn't run, which means which you kind of go, well,
if your 20th one was the one that mattered,
as in if the change that you're making was maybe based on a field value on the case, and so the update could actually be different for every single time the flow got run, then that was a big problem, because it's only going to happen once. So when you turn on this critical update, it's now going to go through and update every single time it runs through, which means things will take longer to run, which means you run the risk of hitting CPU limits.
And so what is the limit now?
I don't remember what the CPU limit, the timing limit is, but...
Was it CPU limit? I thought it was an arbitrary amount. I thought it was 12.
Well, that's 12 duplicate updates, but I mean, there are other limits here that you could hit, because it's running
theoretically,
multiple.
But this is the one they advertise.
That's the one that
they're advertising. If you're trying to access the same record 12 more than 12 times in a single transaction, single bulk data transaction, it will choke. It will abandon the whole process, which to their mind is better than, data being lost because the 20th one was supposed to matter. But in this particular scenario where you have 20 things that are trying to be updated, you're screwed either way, right? In the old way, you would have had data loss. In the new way, it will just fail outright. So either way, you're not going to be happy if you have this scenario come up. At least, though, you're getting predictable behavior, and you can find a workaround, and you'll understand that there's even a problem to begin with, because they didn't really advertise that this was a problem to begin with. Nobody really
here's
hit
the
this
thing,
unless
it's
they
even
hit
more specific than that, because, for example, it's not just necessarily all bulk records being done. Like if you have a flow and you are creating 10 records in that fast lookup, that's not part of this. It's like if you're doing an invocable action through a REST API, that would hit it, right? So that's what they specifically list in the critical update. I would still want to test this, but here's one of the things that I have kind of come when it comes to flows and process builder and auto launch. If you're creating a whole bunch of records en masse through like data loader, don't rely on your automation to do the updates, because you won't have control over which update actually happens to that account. So like if that's important, then you should be taking the power in your own hands and you doing the automation. The other thing that I've commonly seen, Mark, is people will have a flow get called to say, hey, I'm going to update this field on the account based off of something happened on a case or an opportunity. And they don't also put in the criteria to say to only fire that automation when the account doesn't already have that value match. So like if you're going to say when an opportunity is closed won, change the type to customer. Well, if the type of is already customer on the account, you don't need to make that update. So you shouldn't even been running that flow to begin with.
Yeah.
So there's things that you
but at least now they know.
So you can turn it on, but beware that you could run some limits. But I'm going to guess it's probably going to be fairly limited for most people.
Yeah, unless you specifically have a flow that is running on large, like it's actually running like a collections of data. And you should probably be able to figure out pretty quickly whether or not you think it's even possible for the same things to be hit over and over again. If you don't have that, you know what? You're hit. Yeah. You're fine. You're fine. Don't worry about it. One other thing we want to cover real quick of a new pilot.
Pilot? Who's flying the plane?
A new pilot for Flow.
Oh, that kind of pilot.
It's that guy from it's the inflatable blue uniform guy
Airplane.
From Airplane.
Yeah. He does a pretty good job keeping things nice and steady.
He's pretty happy, usually most of the time.
He kind of gets deflated.
It happens. I am not gonna continue this joke. I don't be responsible for what happens.
I was referring to him getting depressed, Mark. Way to let the air out of the joke.
So the pilot is called Lightning Flow for Service. And this, I would say, is perhaps a bit of a misnomer. I'm not entirely certain it's just for service,
as
for
in
starters.
Service Cloud.
Right. It's not clear from the information, but essentially here's what it does. It introduces a junction object that lets you associate flows with records directly.
Oh.
And once you've done that, when that record is opened with a flow associated with it, the flow is automatically launched. And it can be a screen flow. So it's a way of having a flow pop up.
It launches as a subtab. So this sounds like something explicit to a console app.
But it's not. That's the thing. The release notes specifically call out this is also usable in standard navigation, not just in console. So this is why it's all kind of like weird, and I'm not understanding what this is and what it does exactly. I am super intrigued by it. I would love to see a demo of it, possibly kick it around in a dev org.
But it's also pilot. Is it open?
It's also pilot. I think it's a Palm Pilot. Let me see what the actual Release notes. It says to join this pilot, contact your Salesforce AE or Success Manager.
So probably a closed pilot.
Yeah, can't guarantee general availability within any particular time frame.
And here's the thing. As much as I get excited about pilots, here's what you need to think about. You should.
Oh, we've had some bad pilots.
You should not join a pilot with the intention that you're going to be using this in production.
No,
right?
no,
not at all.
No. Never.
Two, just because something's in pilot doesn't mean it's going to work that way when or if it ever moves to general availability. For example, does anyone out there remember flow triggers?
No.
I remember flow triggers.
No. I will
they
never
got replaced
forget.
by Process Builder.
Thank God.
Yes. They were still cool. And I broke my rule. I used them in production because I was desperate.
Yeah, I broke things. It was not pleasant.
It was not pleasant.
I had unhappy users. I mean, don't do it. Just don't do it. Friends don't let friends run pilots in production. Don't do it.
We were talking about the pilot because it's interesting. It's something we should be aware of because usually the way things go is pilot with one release and then either beta or general availability in a release later, depending on how the pilot goes. So it's something to keep your eyes on. I wouldn't be in a hurry to go, oh my gosh, let's go sign up for pilots.
But it sounds very intriguing.
It does.
The idea of having a flow pop up when you access a record. That's cool. I'm not sure how I would use it.
But I mean, couldn't you do that now by putting a flow component on a lightning page?
And that's kind of what I'm thinking about, but it's specific to certain records.
Like a specific record. Like if someone accesses, say, the company record, it automatically opens up a specific flow.
Right. So let's say this. Okay. Let's say that you have a service organization. You have a help desk rather for your company, and there are certain people that request things, but they shouldn't be requesting things, right?
Like a required checkbox. They
call all the time, right? So what you could do is you could have that required checkbox to say this person should not be requesting things, and set up a process builder so that when that's checked, it goes and associates this flow to this record. Now, when this record gets checked, it automatically pulls up the flow, says, do not do anything this person says without running it by their manager.
Danger, Will Robertson.
So, yes. I mean, there's other ways of doing that. You can do that with formulas. You can do that with, images being called from formula. There's all different sorts of ways of doing this. Well, but those don't get seen. You need something that's visible, like a pop-up.
That's normally not there.
Big red text, yeah. So, yeah, that's something I could think of off the top of my head.
Okay.
So this may be one of the longest WizardCasts we've done. Are we ready to wrap this up?
Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Brian, we don't talk about me enough.
We don't. Mark, have you ever thought about setting up a podcast and getting a free month with the magic code PODMAGIC over at Libsyn.com?
WizardCast is produced by Brian Kwang and Mark.
It's not easy, is it, Mark?
No, it's not. Just see us out.
WizardCast is produced by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, directed by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, technical administration by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, script writing by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, audio editing by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, website maintenance by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, and our intern this episode was Claire Jones.
Send us your interview suggestions, jokes, videos, tips, and feedback to wizardcast@thewizardnews.com or head over to thewizardnews.com and click Contact WizardCast.
And look, we really want to hear from you folks. So one of the things that we were going to ask is if you have a question you would love to ask Parker Harris, what would it be?
So you can submit that question by going to bit.ly/ParkerQuestions, all lowercase, and fill out our short form.
Same thing. Once a year, we like to do this thing called an Idea Exchange Highlight, where we talk about ideas on the Idea Exchange that may be languishing, maybe are really important, or maybe is something you think is important that people are ignoring.
If you want to submit an idea, you can go to bit.ly/idea highlight. Again, all lowercase.
And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the WizardCast and receive our next episode automatically.
Please post reviews on Apple Podcasts and share this episode around. It helps others to listen to us and waste all the time that you just wasted.
Once again, I'm Brian.
And I will never run another pilot again in production, I swear.
Yeah, right. Thanks for listening. Hey, Mark, did you know we're actually on TuneIn? Did I tell you that? And I heard that. Did I mention I'm also an Amazon affiliate, and you can help me out by...
No. You're a bad man. You're a bad man.
Gotta get paid, Mark. Gotta get paid.
Eat that screwer.